Hello, I have another finger puppet tutorial to share with you today. So for this project, you're going to need some finger puppet bases, some yarn, and some felt. And I'm also going to use a glue gun and some of these accessories here. And I picked up all of these supplies from childsdream.com except for those little metal beads that I'm going to use for buttons and accessories. So I'm going to draw a long piece of this black yarn to make the hair, and I'm wrapping it around my fingers so that I can just get the right length that I want, and then I can snip both sides, and then that way I have about 20 pieces of yarn ready to go. And so I want to apologize for this video. It seems a little bit dark, and I know that I'm quite close up to the camera, and sometimes I kind of veer off camera, so I'm really sorry. I've been trying a couple of different ways, trying to figure out the best way to show these finger puppet tutorials. And so if you have some suggestions or feedback, please let me know, because I hope to make these as easy for you to follow as possible. And so I've glued on two sides of her hair, and now I'm going to work on the back side so that it's parted down the front on either side. And then once I get one layer of hair in place, I just lift up the hair and then I add in a second layer of hair. I get a little excessive with the hair. I tend to add more than what you need, and you don't really need to add quite this much. And my supplies are all wool, yarn, and wool felt, but you can just use whatever is available at, say, Michael's or Joann's. It doesn't have to be the wool felt, except that the wool felt does last longer and it does wear better. It doesn't get balled up the same way that the synthetic felt becomes after a lot of playing. Okay, so I just need a little bit more yarn here, so I'm just going to wrap it around my fingers again and get some more so that I can give her another layer of hair underneath the first layer. I find that it's easier to work from the top part of her head down so that the other bits of glue and the edges of the yarn are concealed. They'd be concealed either way, but I feel like if I worked from the other way, that if there was glue, it would just be a little bit more obvious at the very top of her head. So I give her a small little haircut here and just try to get it as even as possible. Sometimes I leave the hair really long, like maybe 12 or 18 inches, and then I let my daughter give the finger puppet a few haircuts, and that's always fun for her. It actually happened by accident one time when I had made really long braids for a Rapunzel-inspired finger puppet, and then one day she had very short, stubby braids. But that's okay. I mean, they're meant to be played with and enjoyed, and so that's fine. So I only have a little bit of this green felt, and it's okay that half of the back of the finger puppet base is showing, because I tend to layer on different like cloaks and capes, and so it's okay that the back is partially showing. I'm running out of felt. It's soon time to place an order for some more. So I had tried to use this little accessory on this leather strap here on a previous finger puppet, but it didn't work out. And the leather string is from a bracelet that broke that I just held on to, and then the little charms, it's a little key, a little heart, and then like a little lock. It's from, I think, a fossil wallet or a fossil bracelet. I can't remember, but little things like that I just kind of put aside and keep in a box for when I'm doing these finger puppets, because you can find some accessories at a craft store, but those ones are pretty unique. And you can definitely find long cord, like a long length of leather to make other accessories. But I happen to have this, and I get a thrill out of like upcycling and finding new ways to use what we have, and so I'm really happy that finally these little accessories found a place. And I like the way that it turned out. It just kind of hangs down and shows right between the cloak, where the cloak comes together. Alright, so I'm going to make a hood for this one, not the typical scarf or bandana that I normally make, but I'm going to try to make a hood similar to the one that I made for the Little Red Riding Hood finger puppet. And I'm going to make this one larger because I want it to be able to come onto her head and then also be removed but still be attached to the cape. So I end up, well, in order to do this, I basically had to make sure that she had hair all over her head, because with the Little Red Riding Hood finger puppet, I had only just made some hair that was going to come on either side of her face, and then the back of her head was completely bald, and then I just glued the hood in place. But for this one, I really wanted to try having a hood that could slip on and off. However, once I got done with it, it didn't look so good to have it just hanging off. Because felt is a little bit stiff and it didn't hang the way that I wanted it to. And so I end up gluing it partially on her head. So it still looks like it's coming off, but it's like halfway on. And I'm sorry that I'm off camera here. I will try, I think, just zooming out completely for the next one. I just wanted you guys to have like a closer look at some of the things that I was doing in order to make this. Although I have to say that a lot of you have sent me either pictures or have just shown me in person some of the finger puppets that you've made, and I have been so impressed. Sorry about the noise back there. You guys have done such an amazing job. I am like just thrilled, and my kids have been also inspired by what other kids have made, and they've made their own, and it's been really great. I'm just, again, totally impressed at what you guys can do. Okay, so putting this hood on the back of her cape was a little bit complicated. This was my second finger puppet of the day. I had just made one just before this one, and once you get a little bit of glue on your fingers, if you don't take it off right away, it just attracts more glue. And this is a low temperature glue gun, so I wasn't burning my fingers exactly, but it just kept accumulating on my fingers and it made it really hard to work. So I just had to take a minute there just to get all that extra glue off, and then I'm just going to keep working this hood into her cape. And if your child wants to recreate this finger puppet and you are helping him or her, then you might consider helping with the hood part, because it was a little bit complicated. So here's where I end up gluing it like kind of half on, half off her head, because I just decided that it's going to look better that way. And I really wanted the kind of like the iconic peak of the hood that you typically would see if you're wearing like a hood like this with a cloak. And so I felt like it was better to have it glued onto her head in order for it to look that way. And so I've added a little button at the front, and I'm nearly done. I always take a little time at the very end just to fuss around with it just looking right the way I want it to look. And I'm also really sorry that this one's a little bit harder to see versus other videos, because the whole outfit that she's wearing is quite dark. So here's the completed finger puppet, and then these next pictures are of the finger puppet in the little kind of scene that I created for my kids in our schoolroom with some moss and some bark and other things, and they just love coming over there to play with it. So if you want to see our complete playlist of all the finger puppets that we've made, you can click here for those videos. And if you want to check out how to make these pencil holders out of tin cans, you can click here. And as always, you can check out my website at pepperandpine.com. Okay guys, thanks for watching.